one. It's the same description. It's just not going to be the same link, unfortunately.
Oh, to get started, select your stream and click reuse settings. So, yeah.
I think we're live now.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to... Yeah, okay, cool. We're live now. All right. Sorry, guys, for the delay. I had one job and I made a mistake, so that's my fault. But anyway, welcome to the stream. And actually, Rod, can you mute for a sec? I think it's coming through.
No worries.
Welcome to the stream, guys. It's the Gamer's Guide to the Metaverse. And today we have a special guest, Vetemor, on the stream. He is going to be our expert, our expert, let's leave it at that, to Web3 gaming. Basically, this all started because Vetemor and I had a pretty interesting discussion on Twitter about what improvements Web3 actually do to the current gaming industry. And I think we agreed on some points and we disagreed on some points. And, you know, with Twitter, there's only a certain amount of characters you can type to get your point across. So I thought it'd be better if we just invited him onto the stream. And for those of you who don't know Gameonomics, this is our crew. We've got Daniel, aka Show Force, RDZ, aka Rod, Extra Chili, aka Dushan, and Marek is Marek. And yeah, we just, you know, we have our weekly meetings. We talk crypto gaming. We talk about the newest trends in the industry, and we talk about new projects. And yeah, I think it's quite fitting that we have Vetemor on the stream today to discuss some of these points. I believe Vetemor is running for Illuvium Strategy Council. Do you want to give yourself a little plug there, why you think you would be a good candidate? Go ahead.
I think you're muted, or is it on my end?
I think Vetemor.
No, it's on my end. Yeah. So yeah, I have 9 months of experience already being on the council. I know all the ins and outs of Illuvium's tokenomics and pretty much just the entire system, governance, like everything. And because I am somewhat of a contrarian, but also like I'm flexibly minded. I like to, you know, be able to weigh up both sides, and I'm not just gonna, you know, dig my foot in the sand and not be able to move on things. So I just overall I think I'm just good for that role, which is why I'm running again.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to see what sort of value he can provide to the Illuvium community based on some of the insight he has within the Web3 gaming industry. So let's just jump straight into it. Now, something I want to do before we actually get into the crux of the arguments, I want to go through and actually ask everyone, like, what is blockchain technology and what elements of blockchain technology is relevant to gaming, right? Because, you know, blockchain, people talk about Bitcoin, people talk about smart contracts, people talk about DAOs. So let's start off with Daniel. What is the biggest thing from blockchain technology that you think can be implemented to gaming?
The biggest thing, actually, yeah, we've gone back and forth on this. I don't believe as much into the ownership part. I feel like one of the main things and I want to explore this in this stream as well, is basically empowering developers more and making them less dependent on big publishers, and basically I guess decentralizing the game publishing space. I think a lot of the benefits are actually now I'm thinking more on the developer side than on the gamer side. Obviously there are a lot of opportunities there as well, but yeah, I would say that's the first thing that comes to mind. I think the opportunities for developers to I think it could be a better way for a better replacement for Kickstarter or stuff like this, basically for them to get funding early on in the project. I would say, yeah, this is the main one that comes to mind.
Okay, interesting. If anyone has anything they want to say, feel free to just jump in. Vetemor, when you come to gaming, what is the number one you think that gaming benefits from blockchain technology?
Well, this is kind of a weird one because I would have definitely given a different answer several months ago, but I'm like almost at the place of I'm still looking. Because I felt like there was a lot of benefits, and the longer I've been in the space, there is actually a part of me that feels that beyond like the main benefit that I actually see that's like a clear benefit right now is actually exactly what Daniel said, which is for new developers. And part of that is just the fact that because you're building in an essentially completely new niche, you are being exposed to an audience that you might not otherwise have been. You might also be alienating a lot of audience, but beyond that, I think you're building in a new niche, which can allow for opportunities that you might not otherwise have at your disposal. Otherwise, the more I've debated it, the more I'm at a place of almost anything that blockchain supposedly offers gaming. I don't think that value is there until we get to a point where crypto actually is globally accepted, where banks let people buy crypto generally, and where if you get into crypto gaming, you don't need to get a new bank account that actually lets you buy crypto. Because that, like, just that alone is just so big. But like, if Web3 is just integrated into just our society and into our financial system, then I think then it brings a lot of those benefits. And I think actually a lot of the people building in Web3 today are actually building for the benefit of future builders. They're building to be to build, to fail, to be case studies for the big gaming companies that will then just come in, gather all of that experience, build something, taking all of those lessons in, and deliver something to market that's actually going to be amazing. I do still think that there is a genuine opportunity for gaming studios to come in at this point and be trailblazers and actually build something that's legit sick, and sort of redefine the space, and that they can actually establish themselves as like new world-class studios. But I think that's going to take a lot of work, and the majority will fail.
Yeah. Okay. That's a fair point. And I think, as Daniel said earlier, yeah, I think, as you explore the space a little bit more, you start to actually realize that some of the maybe utopic values that Web3 we're going to bring doesn't really happen in reality. But let's say we live in that ideal world. And what is it about Web3 gaming that you think has the most potential in an ideal world, Vetemor?
In an ideal world.
So, like, let's say that system that you just talked about, the banks are all...
That's the promise.
Yeah. Like the banks are all in on it. Everyone's in. Do you think it's the ownership that's going to, is the most exciting thing for you? It doesn't need to be what you think the industry needs the most. It's personally for you. Are you excited about the ownership?
Starting with the heavy questions here.
going straight. We got to get straight into it,
Okay.
No market.
Yeah, Scuzz is really going straight into the hard stuff, isn't he?
Definitely
Okay,
but I think this is a good one. I like it.
It is a good one. Yeah.
I mean, Adized, why don't you? If it's so, you love the difficult question.
Take it away.
Yeah. Okay. Since you guys have been talking a bit too much, all right, I'm sick of it. So look, for me, and I agree with Vetemor a lot when he said, when you first get into the space and you get interested in crypto gaming and you start learning about, oh, look, there's gaming in crypto, there's a lot of things that you get excited by because they make sense, and also it is exciting to think that gaming can change in that direction. For me, the first thing, and actually before I go into it, the reason why I agree with you is because when you first start, as I said, there's a lot of things, but when you learn more about it, you realize that they're not as important as you might have once thought. And it's not as exciting because practically it's a little bit harder to implement. And I'll give you an example. For me, in an idealistic world, ownership is the most exciting and fun thing about crypto gaming, is the fact that, and this is why we all got interested in this in the first place. We thought to ourselves, okay, imagine if we could actually own our skins. We're all old school gamers. We've been around for a long time. We've spent thousands of dollars on games. We've spent thousands of dollars on all sorts of things in gaming, on computers, on in-game items, on the actual physical games themselves. And this was a really interesting way to own your assets and trade your assets for the future. That was my first thought, and that was the thing that I was really excited by at the start. Now, obviously, we've learned more about the space, and we've learned more about, honestly, the economics of it all as well. So I think that's not as strong of an argument as it once was, especially when talking about certain things. Like, wouldn't it? I always go back to this. Wouldn't it be awesome to have an MMORPG game where you literally cutting wood and you can sell your wood instantly for cash, right? And the higher level you get, the more access to better wood types and all sorts of things you get. You can, have a difference. You can earn more money. You can have a difference between people. The hardcore grinders can potentially make more money, but obviously we know that that comes with a few issues. So for me, that idealistic approach doesn't for ownership is not really as relevant anymore. I think the more relevant thing is visual stuff rather than in-game stuff. Like it's still in-game, but the more visual component of it. And sorry, I was talking shit about you guys talking a lot, but I just talked a lot. So yeah, what do you guys think about that?
I think actually, just to touch on that quickly, I think what you're saying is, like, I think we have all gone through this. It all, like, there's a lot of cool sounding stuff and like a lot of like opportunities at first glance, but the more you get into it, the more you see the challenges. And I think the more, that's kind of like the journey as you get more and more into this stuff. Like, the more you look into crypto gaming, Web3 is like, oh wait, maybe this is not actually that easy to do, or like maybe people don't really want it, or I think that's kind of like what you're saying there. Like, it starts sounding like very cool in the beginning, but the more you get into it, you see that, well, wait, there's actually quite a few challenges there as well.
I feel like this is starting to sound like Web3 Alcoholics Anonymous. Like, hello, my name is Vetemor. Yeah. When I first started drinking the Web3 Kool-Aid, it was so great. But then, I love this. It's actually so much fun. I when you said about like RDZ about the appearance, do you mean like the ownership of skins specifically?
Yeah.
Or
yeah. So when as I said, in an idealistic world, it would be awesome to have an MMORPG where everything is tokenized, everything is on the blockchain. We can buy and sell on secondary markets, and it's basically free markets, right? When it comes to a game. But I think now I've transitioned more into I don't think the in-game items that are not purely visual will work. I think the only thing that we can hope for when it comes to these crypto games is purely cosmetic, and nothing that affects the game.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with that, and the main reason being, the more you do the math in your head and you realize the reason why people actually play games is to at least some extent, it's escapism. It's because maybe you're not that rich in real life. You can't do you can't go skydiving. You can't do these experiences. You can't go paintballing every day. So you play Call of Duty because it's a much cheaper way of having the same experience. So going into a game and then you're poor in the game as well, bruh, that's too much. That's too heavy. So like having a game where like you can do everything. Everything's the same sort of either free to play or just a cost up front. But then like the skins are monetized, but it's just not pay to win, because pay to win just isn't fun. And that's what you realize is, well, you actually study a bit of Web2 and you're like, people hate web like play to win. Like play to win, like in FIFA, like it makes a bunch of money, but everyone hates it. The game has such bad reviews because of it.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
a tough balance to pull off, right? Like making it like having the the company make the most money, because at the end of the day they're a company and they just want to print, and especially they have like investors, they have to like maximize money for investors, but like how do you do that but still like keep a fair environment? And yeah, I guess like the pay to win, that's the bad scenario, where just like maximizing the returns on money short term and not really thinking about the ecosystem and just fucking players over.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Ricky.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are all good points, but I mean, you know, I didn't invite Vetemor on here to just agree with us. I want to see a little bit more controversy. Anyway, I think
has
to
to
be
be
fair,
something.
in all seriousness, I think we're all kind of on the same page in terms of like a macro view of the entire industry. So, but something that I think a lot of people do, this is my opinion, I think a lot of people do really poorly when analyzing gaming and crypto is that for the most part, it's always the gamer, but the gaming industry to me is a lot bigger than just the gamer. Now, obviously the gamer is the most important thing to the industry, but there are other participants within the industry that makes a gaming experience for the gamer. So what I want to quickly do is I actually want to, for the most part of this stream, is I actually want to go through all the different participants. Obviously, we're going to start with gamer because that's the most important. But I also want to talk about how blockchain could perhaps improve current systems with developers, maybe publishers, even, you know, the game distribution platforms. We see quite a bit of monopoly with Steam that I have some thoughts about as well. And then also even for people like us, you know, like content creators, and then obviously people like, I know Jud's in the stream, like him, who want to play competitively in the esports scene. So I think I want to kind of make sure that we break it down per participant and actually talk about perhaps the positives and the negatives for each one. And I think we've already started with gamers. You know, we're all gamers or ex-gamers or, you know, whatever you want to call yourself these days. But I want to go into the gamers specifically. So I guess the first thing is, I think we can all agree that blockchain technology doesn't really improve the gaming experience. And what I mean by that, it doesn't really improve the graphics or, you know, anything like that. In fact, it actually makes the gameplay a little bit more complicated with economies. Now, if anything we've seen in Web3 gaming, economies are very hard to manage, and I don't think there's been any gaming project that's been successful in that. But I guess my question is, how many of you guys actually want to participate in these types of gaming economies? And I know Vetemor this morning had a very good conversation with Najafe about free market economies versus, you know, what I would call centralized economies with the pegging. And, you know, if someone like me who grew up playing MMORPGs like RuneScape, I used to play a French game called Dofus. And one of the big things I liked about those games was I actually enjoyed the economy side. So, you know, as nerdy as this sounds, I used to make Excel sheets for the Grand Exchange in RuneScape. And I enjoyed the concept of buying resources and trying to find, you know, like the EV, the expected value in some, like trying to, you know, craft certain items to make a profit. Now, not every gamer is like that, but there are some gamers like me who have issues and need to participate in these economies. What percentage do you think, maybe let's talk from Illuvium, what percentage of that demographic do you think are like me versus someone who wants to play games for, I guess what Vetemor said, the escapism?
So I mean, I still think that is a form of escapism. I can relate to you there. Like, I loved RuneScape. I think from what I've seen in the Illuvium community, there's a large proportion of people in there who have either played RuneScape, World of Warcraft, or both, and came into Web3 very much envisioning, I loved grinding in these games. What if I was grinding in like a play to earn game and it was earning me money? And I think that's where, like, what you realize is the moment there is actually money attached, it actually becomes less fun. Which is crazy, because you'd think that like speculating on markets and like ROI and all this stuff would be somehow more fun with money. But for a lot of people, that actually just turns it into a chore. And you know, that's definitely its own thing. But I think there is a large contingent of people that are like just generally investors or investor minded at the moment in Illuvium. I think the main thing that should be Illuvium's priority in the next, honestly, like 7 months in the lead up to launch, should really be beginning to focus on Web2 marketing. I think that around the time when like PvP comes out, which should be in about 3 to 4 months or something, like the first beta testing of that, at least according to like the runway that they've set, I think that's a great opportunity to begin getting maybe some TFT players in there, maybe some Web2 content creators, and just start getting people excited about it, because generally in just gaming as a whole, like games start getting marketed 3 to 6 months like in advance. And I think it's really the PvP that we want to be showcasing, because as much as the overworld looks flash and nice, it's actually just a glorified pack opening experience ultimately, and the actual game is the PvP. And if the PvP isn't something that is a worthwhile experience that engages players, that keeps them coming back for more, then there's no point of the overworld. Because like, what's the point of going around catching alluvials if the game that you play using them sucks? And there will be future games that will utilize them to some extent. Maybe it's just like pets or mounts or whatever, who knows. But like, yeah, I think the priority is PvP and marketing that. I totally went off base. I have no idea where the question started.
No. I think, I mean, I guess to simplify what you've said to answer the question is, you think that, yeah, basically people who are going to be playing for the economy side of it is not going to be there. It's more so people want to play the competitive side through the arena.
I think there'll be a good mix of both, honestly.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of people will come also just from the NFT market, and they just enjoy the whole flippity flop and, you know, that whole aspect.
Well, I guess Daniel, you muted.
Yeah. And I guess it makes a lot of sense, right? Like that's like most people who are here now are like the investor minded, are the like the NFT people. That's like most of us, because there was not much like of a product in like the period leading up to now, and the product is still like being built in a way that's compelling for gamers. But I guess, yeah, what Vetemor is saying, like maybe they should shift their focus a bit more now like to the gamers, to like making it compelling for the gaming guys, because the investors are already here, the people are interested, but let's actually make a product that gamers want to play, primarily gamers want to play, not just like the investor minded, like the nerdy Excel guys want to play.
Yeah, no, totally understand. Just a follow-up question to the whole economy stuff. Do you think there is a market, like let's say this game genre of like what RDZ's dream of everything that he plays in his MMORPG, everything he gets is tokenized. What if that just becomes a new genre, right? Like what if that is the genre where, okay, like, you know, like I guess the example here is like myself and a lot of the guys here are actual, you know, poker players or used to play poker, and it's a game, right? Like at its core, it's a game for fun. And some people play the game just purely for the gambling element, and some people play the game purely for fun. What if Web3 games became its own genre, kind of like poker, in the sense that, you know, there are people there who are trying to min-max, aka like me with my spreadsheets and whatnot. Do we think that a new genre can be created, or is there too much friction between the two demographics that will never work?
Like personally, I have to say, like, I'm a poker player, and one of the things that got me like really bullish about Illuvium was like a lot of people worldwide play poker. A lot of people worldwide, you know, play chess, but also poker. And I was literally like, all of these people playing poker, like, I'm not saying poker's getting stale. It's never going to get stale. It's just a great game. But like, one thing they could just be doing is playing. I was literally like, what if they're just playing Illuvium tournaments using the same mindset of poker? And like, maybe we could even market this to poker pros as something that they can go pro in, because it's like, and chess players, because the other thing is like chess players earn no money, but they're really clever. So it's like, if you just put that into this, you become like, just play all the money tournaments, and like you could actually monetize your chess playing, right? Whereas normally, like, you need to be like a chess streamer, and it's a really hard audience. So I thought there was actually a lot of potential there for that kind of thing. And I think you make a really good point that there is definitely a space for games that do have money aspects to them, or almost gambling aspects, essentially, that are just well balanced and that involve some level of like strategy, poker-like, chess-like thinking, that are just fun and engaging to play, just for the fun, but then also for the gambling, and a mix of that. And I think there's definitely room for that.
So I guess so correct me if I'm wrong. So your opinion is that if a game is marketed in a way to be like that, you would have no problems. And obviously there's still going to be friction and whatnot. It's still going to be difficult to onboard people. Perhaps, if they're poker players, to play a poker site, it's kind of easy. It's just deposit and you're on a table and you're playing. It's probably still a lot more difficult in the Web3 space. But if these games marketed themselves in that way, would you still have issues with that? Or because the way Kieran talks about Illuvium with the Leviathan, that's exactly what I was thinking. As soon as he talked about that, I was like, here we go. This is actually something that could be like poker heads up. You come to this Illuvium battle, this PvP, and you go, right, I'm staking, I don't know, $500 worth of alluvials. You're staking the same, and winner takes all. And I thought that was a really interesting concept. But then the problem is you probably lose like 95% of gamers, because that's just not the genre they have. And my question now is, if what's going to be more profitable, targeting that really, really niche demographic, or is it better to go for a bigger, just try and encapsulate everything? Because I feel like Illuvium at the moment is going into a very complicated route. Like, just your conversation with Jaffe with the rails and everything. Like, even for me, I had to sit there and watch a couple of videos and, his explanation video and really understand what's going on. It seems like Illuvium's going for the mainstream, but I feel like it should target the niche. What are your guys' opinions on that?
Actually, I want to just jump in a bit first, because probably Vetemor, I mean, yeah, he's for sure more knowledgeable there. But yeah, on this point you just mentioned, yeah, it does sound like they have to have a coherent targeting, branding strategy, where they have to decide, are we going for this or that? Because I think the wider you go, the less successful you'll be. And I think they have to you cannot really, I don't think a project will have much success if you're this, but we're that as well. And for example, in this example we're talking about here, a good example of being a more gamified version of poker. Okay, but that's very different than a mainstream game. That's very different to just a standard open world capturing game. I think the audiences are quite different, and like you said, Skaz, you probably you will market it differently, you will present it differently, because I do think they have to decide what kind of players they want to bring. But yeah, I'm also curious now what Vetemor thinks, because there are a lot of poker players that maybe would play something like this, and maybe there is demand, and maybe that's something new they can bring to the space. Maybe this crypto gaming can fulfill this space for people who are competitive, who are playing strategy games, but that's just a niche, right? We are not really going for the mainstream gamer here. So yeah, I'm curious what he thinks as well.
Yeah, so I feel like you've hit the nail on the head there, because I've said two sort of conflicting things. I obviously said I think we should start marketing to mainstream, but then I've also said, poker players, which is, as you rightly said, a completely niche thing. And the reason why I thought about that poker thing early on, and then I've actually changed my perspective over time, is because like Leviathan, the original idea of Leviathan is actually dead. They're not going to be doing that because there's genuine gambling concerns regarding it. So there's not going to be, it's actually not fight for ETH. There's going to be no gambling element in it. Exactly how they're going to pull off the tournament structures, we'll see, because there could be some kind of a gambling element there. I know that one thing I've heard from them is apparently in Australia, like the gambling's just not allowed, like online gambling. But what you're allowed to do is you're allowed to buy an entry to something as long as you get it for free with the purchase of a product. And if the product that is being purchased is an NFT, which is a product that is an entry ticket to essentially a sit and go, with like 8 people, everyone like 1v1. It's like a 1v1 sit and go mini tournament, and like some kind of payout structure there, kind of like poker. They might be able to pull that off. But I think generally as a whole, like the auto chess genre that it actually is, the actual way that the game is, I don't think it's ever going like completely mainstream, just because it's a niche game mode in itself. When I say let's target Web 2, I do much more feel like we should target some level of a adult grown-up Pokemon audience because of just the similarity in some ways. And also we should definitely strongly be targeting the Teamfight Tactics player base, because that's a game that's had, I believe, over like nearly 100 million downloads. And that game is basically just like a less cool looking version of this. Our version literally just looks way cooler than TFT. There's also like the whole overworld. Like it just, I think that many TFT players will see that and they'll be like, wow, like that looks fun. And if we get like TFT pros to, you know, play our game, like I think that is a niche audience that we should be targeting. But like, there's a lot of aspects for sure.
Yeah, that makes way more sense. And I think what people fail to see, and you brought that up a bit, is once you involve, and I think that will be a challenge with crypto gaming, like how do we make it like cool, utility, useful, and engaging, while not triggering the whole like gambling market and not making it gambling? Because once you bring gambling and it can be categorized as gambling, you have all this legislation that like fucks you over, or all this like regulation stuff that you have to KYC, you have to be over 18, and that's a barrier. Like people, like you cannot really like market it as a game anymore. It becomes something like poker, like people cannot play poker for real money, like unless they're over 18 and they're like KYC'd. So I think you close off a lot of the market if you implement like gambling like elements into it. Well, even if it's like really exciting for us here, like as poker players and like as people getting into the space, crypto, DeFi, but that puts like a big barrier to entry, which really like stunts the growth of like any project that wants to be like a widespread like adopted game. So probably that makes more sense targeting like the auto chess and like the better niche, because I think there probably would be a lot of challenges in crypto gaming, because how do you make it like make money, and like that's kind of the promise, be competitive for money, but like okay, but like how you also make it legal and not having KYC, then like I think that would be a big challenge as well, even though there are benefits there, but it does come with the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a bit of a different opinion on this, because I think as much as you want to going back to the original thing, which was what is the percentage of people that want to do the economy stuff versus people that just want to roam around and play the game and not really focus too much about the economy grinding and min-maxing that aspect of the game. And I think it's just so hard to tell. And you might say maybe we should go down a niche path and target those poker players and all that sort of thing. But I also don't think that we can know which one will be more successful, and also what the ideal combination will be like at this point. And this is one of the reasons why crypto gaming is quite exciting, because at this point, a lot of the stuff that they're doing is quite new when it comes to the ownership thing and even the gambling elements of it as well, where you've got there is a form of risk that comes into play of, okay, I've got these resources that I've farmed, or this skin that I've farmed. Should I sell it now? Should I keep it for later? Should I trade it? What do I do? So it's all a little bit unknown in my opinion. So it's hard to tell. But in general, my belief is that if you are going to compete with mainstream gaming, or if you want to be as big as mainstream gaming, you've got to get the average user on board. And you've got to try to get them. And that might mean that you need to upskill them, educate them, teach them about crypto, teach them about risk even. But I feel like that for a lot of these crypto games, and maybe even Illuvium, well, yeah, definitely Illuvium as well, they need to target the average gamer. And yeah, obviously not everyone is going to like the Illuvium style TFT. I'm not a big fan of auto battlers and TFT style games, but I do agree with you, Vetemor. Like Illuvium's really nice when it comes to the graphics and the characters, and it's quite unique as well in that sense. So I think there's also a collectible visual benefit to playing a game like that, and not just its gameplay. But yeah, my view on is try to secure that mainstream, try to secure that average user that also wants to play this sort of stuff on the train, on the way to work. When they're there, they can even pull out Illuvium 0 and they can start just playing casually, and they're not really focused too much on the economic side. But in saying that, is that possible to do? How are they going to manage that average player that might not look at his assets for weeks? I don't know. And I think that's what's, as I said, it's one of the exciting parts of crypto as well, where we don't know. We'll just have to see who does a good job of it.
Yeah.
It actually sounds like, sorry, just like to add on that a bit, it sounds like, yeah, the more you want to go towards the mainstream, and the more you have to sacrifice the financial, the economics, the flipping, all this like financial incentives. And it makes sense for them for Illuvium, because they started off in this space, like targeting, like again, catering to this audience who wants to invest, who wants to make money by investing in a game and like staking and all this stuff. But it does sound like the more you go towards the mainstream audience, you kind of have to sacrifice some of that element of the game, the like financial incentives.
Yeah, it does seem like that.
Right? I mean, like it's just not exclusive, right? It's not like you can have one and not have other. It's just that the game developers have to focus on the most important part. And I 100% agree with Rodden that backbone of every game, of every sport, of everything in our society are recreative players, right? The people that have fun. Like if we look at chess, right, we have 99.99999% of players will never make it, right? In that same probably stat in Counter-Strike or chess or poker or anything, but that doesn't stop them from having fun, right? So I think that's like one of the most important things. I think that the problem that nowadays developers have is that they focus too much on the professional aspect, while not thinking about their average user that's actually going to be, a player that wants to have fun on the train, as Rod said, or, like all these, like here we are talking about this ratio between grinders and like fun players, let's call them like that. And thing is, if you advertise the game as pay to earn, you will have more grinders, not necessarily in this ratio, but compared to the traditional gaming, right? Because it's the main selling catch that, hey guys, come here and earn money. And I'm not sure if this is really exciting for average user that, has a job on the side. Maybe he doesn't want, right? He wants to have some fun. And if everyone is just optimizing for that, then yeah, I think games can have trouble to break through. if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that makes a ton of sense. I think play to earn is actually dead. Ultimately, like any game that you're playing it to earn money, unless it is what Scuzz suggested of like a game where it's kind of like a poker, but it's like it's not play to earn. Poker's not play to earn. Poker's play to gamble, but play to risk. Like I think that's fine. I think that's actually a niche I hadn't even considered, but that's totally a niche. But play to earn as a whole, just it literally doesn't work, and that's been just shown time and time again. The model that I think Illuvium's going for is pay to play, and I think that's a totally acceptable model. With like there being, I think they're putting some level of like earning potential because they do have like 1 million ILV tokens set aside for in-game rewards and for tournaments and all this different stuff, and there might be some kind of leaderboard yield or something. But like that's really just incentivizing players to get good, and I think that's like a lot of games do similar things like that, you know. So I don't think that's exactly play to earn, and I'm fine with that. But like just as a whole, like yeah.
Well, there's a big difference there, right? In what you're saying, like with like play to earn. Yeah, you cannot say like play to earn when like most people will lose. It's like the poker as well. It's not like play to earn. It's like play to gamble. It's no, like top 1 to 5% of people will actually make money. The other people will lose money or make no money in a like normal gaming, in like a normal game. That is play to earn. So you cannot bring people on with the promise of like, yeah, actually only like 5% of you will actually make money, but it is a play to earn game. So I think like that's a sustainable play to earn game where, yeah, okay, the elite guys will make money. They're like top to 1 to 5%. That's fine, but that's not like exactly play to earn. You like you get someone there and they play and like, oh, they're actually pretty bad at the game because they're just starting off and they make no money. Oh, okay, wait, I thought this was play to earn. They're actually probably like net negative. So yeah, I think that's the issue there.
Yeah. Okay. So very couple of interesting points just to summarize. So I think we're all saying at the moment we should be targeting the mainstream gamer. They're the back, you know, like your recreational player who's playing the game for fun. That's the backbone for all gaming projects and communities. And on top of that, you know, we need to move away from like, yeah, incentivizing grinders to come to the game, and which I think already the industry has moved away from the traditional play to earn. I know Eshad's saying play to earn isn't dead, but I believe he's talking more so from the competitive side of things. So earning in a professional scene, which I think is a separation from the mainstream gamer. I think, well, once again, we haven't really seen too many projects within the space that have done this successfully. Perhaps maybe something like Splinterlands is a good example where you have your tournament section and then you just have your normal ranked. If you want to play tournaments, you have to buy in. And now we have, you know, effectively a zero-sum game. Everyone buys in and, you know, whoever wins gets, you know, majority share of the reward. And I think that's fine, right? Because people, if you don't want to play tournaments and you don't want to risk money, you have that game mode, you know, your normal game modes to play. But if you do want to play competitive and you do want to play for money, you have that option as well. So I think, yeah, projects need to be very clear in differentiating, you know, between the two and making sure that the competitive scene is, first of all, it is transparent, that it is going to be, people are going to lose, and making sure that is a fun and safe environment as well. Okay, so I just want
to like a quick quick
go
thing
on.
there to actually like also probably like help move things forward because we have been on this a bit. Okay, we should target the mainstream, right? Okay, we should go for the average gamer. And I think like what we should be thinking here in this stream, like I think this is a good direction. Like probably a lot of your questions, like a lot of the topics will fall on this. Okay, we're not gonna go for these guys. We're not gonna go for like the niche. We're not gonna go for like the gambler, the whole like target market, like making like risking money, pay to earn, whatever. We're gonna go for the mainstream gamer. But my question is, and let's see like if we can answer that today, like, okay, but what are we offering them? Why will they come to Web3? Why will they come to crypto gaming? It's like, I agree, there's a lot of potential, like we should maybe target, but like, should we target? Like, is this the way forward for crypto gaming? Like, getting the mainstream guys, the mainstream gamer guys here, because I don't know if I see much to gain for them for like transitioning to this. So yeah, can we offer them that much?
Well, I think
I think Vetemor
you're
is
muted, but I'll
muted.
lead you into this because this is kind of where Vetemor and I had our discussion about what is the value proposition to the mainstream gamer. And my argument is it's game genre dependent. I don't think every game genre offers a lot of utility to the mainstream gamer, but I think there are quite a few. And I know, you know, the Gameonomics guys know that I bang on a lot about particularly trading card games. I think trading card games are the number one gaming genre that benefit the most from blockchain technology. And the reason for that is because with collectibles, even physical collectibles, like how do you really know if, you know, Pokemon, let's use Pokemon as an example. How do you know there are actually 100 Charizards that exist in the world, right? And, you know, time and time again, particularly if you do follow the trading cards game space, there are a lot of scams that go on internally within the company. So there's been a lot of employees fired for marking boxes, you know, basically giving themselves an edge in the open market by knowing which packs or which box has the highest probability of having the rare cards. And on top of that, like, how do we know that these companies are operating under good faith? Like, you know, a lot of these are private companies. They're not required to provide us financials or whatever. And we kind of just have to take their word for gospel. So, you know, let's say Pokemon say there's 100 Charizards that exist. Like, how do we authenticate that? And the problem that occurs with this is you then have these third-party companies that prop up that are like, oh, come to us, pay $20 or $25 for us to authenticate your cards. And, you know, it's kind of like mafia tactics in the sense that everyone has like this, they build this reputation and, you know, like if you don't come to us, your card isn't authentic. And they're not even part of the company. So it's like, and, you know, I always use the extreme example. I'm sure some of you guys have seen the Logan Paul video where he bought, I think, like $1 million box, which was authenticated by these guys, and it turned out to be a fake. Like, I don't know if that was a bit. It could definitely be a bit. I don't really see the incentive for the authenticators to be a part of that bit. But and I guess long way to get to it is, with blockchain, we can actually authenticate how many are on chain. If I'm going to spend $100,000 on this Charizard, for me personally, I want to make sure that there's only 100 Charizards that exist in the world. So for me as a collector, I want to be able to authenticate that myself. I want there to be full transparency. And yeah, I think that's what blockchain offers. But if we now look at something like...
But is that like the mainstream gamer?
For trade...
Yeah.
Well, I mean... For trading card games, I think the demographic do care about the rarity, particularly when you do go to, say, like I talk about my anecdotal trip to Japan, where, you know, the average gamer or the mainstream gamer is actually caring a lot about rarity. You know, they're negotiating if you go to Japan, every corner shop is a trading card store, and there's like hundreds of kids in there, you know, all trading card game. Then they're savvy. Like that's the mainstream trading card game. And that's why I say it's game genre dependent. If you talked about something like Rocket League, where, you know, no one really gives a shit about the rarity of the Need for Speed skin or whatever, then sure, I think that argument holds true. But that's why I'm a big believer in it's game genre dependent. The game genre will generally target a certain demographic, and from what I've seen in the trading card, particularly on, like, even if you look at things like eBay, like, and if people aren't authenticating these cards, no one's buying them. You know what I mean? Like, that's when you go to these things, they all have the authentication. So I think the mainstream trading card scene, yes, but in the gaming sphere in total, probably not. That's not the case, but yeah, that's my argument. Gaming genre is dependent on the value to the mainstream gamer.
So I think the distinction that you've made there is that there are different types of mainstream, and I think it's kind of important because, so when I initially said like, oh, we should target mainstream, like I actually much more agree with what Daniel said earlier, which is like, well, actually, you can make a lot of money by just having a niche like game. Like, you don't need to go mainstream to make money with a game. Like, in fact, that's something that I've become very aware of over the like 2 months ago when I like made a proposal with somebody, and then like the proposal was literally to try and make Illuvium even more like mainstream accessible. And through that proposal, I sort of realized that actually this is a shit idea. Actually, we would benefit more from like a very specific type of niche audience. Like, I think we should target to mainstream audiences that play TFT. And that's a very specific type of mainstream, to the point where like some people that are in quote air quotes mainstream, but like they're technically mainstream, but they play TCGs, they're borderline crypto. Like, they might as well think like crypto people. And like you know, those people that, you know, harvest things, and like there are a lot of game niches and just like ways of interacting with games that actually make you super like you're like one domino away from crypto adoption. And I think those are the people that we should be targeting, and creating games that really target, like, we shouldn't be targeting you know, maybe Call of Duty players is a hard one to say, because like there is stuff going on with that, but I don't think we should be targeting Call of Duty players. I think it's a type of mainstream player that really doesn't give a shit about ownership like at all. Like, I play Call of Duty, and I frankly don't want to own anything in that game. I just want to burn 20 minutes and have a good time doing it and move on.
Yeah, totally agree. And that's why I think it is game genre dependent. Like, when I play Rocket League, I don't care if there's like, I'm paying $3 for this rare, apparently it was rare limited edition, like the Need for Speed, not Need for Speed, Fast and the Furious Paul Walker's car. And I actually had people in game messaging me like, oh, I'll pay $100 for that. Like, not that you can trade it or anything, but at the same time, I'm like, I just don't care. But then if I am in the sphere of trading cards, I am going to be like I'm going to negotiate pretty well, because that's just what the in that genre is about. Dushan, I saw you unmuted. I think you want to say something.
Yeah. So just thinking about, like, first, Rick, everything that you said about transparency, about being able to verify, to have true ownership, to all that is like, that's just like a common sense, right? Like, there's no person in this chat or probably in the world that will say, no, I'm not for that. Like, I don't want that to be transparent. I want, you know, to be fact. Just things. Yeah, I mean, it's all in ideal world, right? Here is the problem. Average person, average player doesn't think about that. Like, I have a bunch of friends and I'm trying to explain them this concept, and they ask me, what's the difference? You know, and we get into these like debates, and I try to get deep into these like philosophical almost explanations of property and ownership and whatever. And I have feel that it just passed through them sometimes. They just don't think about it in the same way as we do. And you have like people that they spend like thousands of dollars on Hearthstone packs each year, or in FIFA, right, just to get the new release or new expansion in the next 3 months. And you know, like, we can't expect rational thinking from, you know, average 18-year-old that's going to be in this game. So I think that's one of the challenges. Like, that's why I think that, you know, focus should be on the game, right? The game should be good. Now, also, I think, while I agree, of course, marketing is gonna advertise the game to certain groups, right? They know what their target audience, right? But overall, like, we shouldn't just like generalize, you know, like, or like say this is like for chess players, or this is for poker players, whatever. We need these recreationals, right? Like, they need to come from everywhere. And you know, if we think about like just situation in poker, as we are all poker players and we just understand that field very, very well, right? we have seen what these like professional environments can do in the end to the game, right? We have seen that in Begamon, in professional Begamon online. We have seen that now in chess already for a long time. You don't play chess for money online anymore. There were sites in the early 2000s where you could play online for cash chess, right? Nowadays you'll be an idiot to do it because like you're just inviting someone to crush you with an engine. So overall, yeah, I lost my train of thought now, but overall, yeah, this maxing stuff and optimizing for win rate and optimizing for like these like professional approaches, just lead to if let's game is PvP one-on-one and you are like playing auto chess or whatever it is, and the pool is all professionals, what's the incentive now for us? Why wouldn't they start like table selecting very soon, like in poker, right? Maybe they'll start like bum hunting just in a different game. Like that's what people do to optimize their winnings. If you advertise it as a professional game for people to make money, right? Or like invite that type of people only. So there needs to be some liquidity, right? There needs to be fish to deposit into the game to bring money in, right? Not just regulars to clean it up.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
yeah, I mean, please, please comment. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I think we're all on the same page with that. I think, we don't want to target the min-maxing and we want to target the recreationals for certain. I'm just conscious of time. I want to move on to, so we've talked a lot about gamers. I want to move on to game developers. Now, this is an area of the industry that I think benefits a lot from crypto. So I guess let's start off with the first question here that I have is, so actually Daniel's written this question, can crypto become a better Kickstarter platform for indie developers? So yeah, for those of you who don't know what Kickstarter is, basically you go to, it's just a website where you can pledge a certain amount of funds. Generally speaking, the developers will return you some sort of reward. I've seen soundtracks been handed to, generally early access to a game, generally some in-game cosmetics are attached to this, and maybe even sometimes like a shirt or something like that is provided. What are your guys' thoughts on crypto being a better platform for maybe smaller developers, more so than larger developers, than sites, say, like Kickstarter?
Well, when I put this question in there, I think it's a better version of Kickstarter, because you can, with crypto, you can put something out there that incentivizes more people to participate, have more of a promise to them, maybe having like an NFT that can go up in value, you can trade it in the future. So I think crypto gives the like early participants, the early backers, a way to be investors, not just like charity guys. And I think that brings on a way wider array of people that's saying, okay, I am supporting the project, I like their project, and they give me an opportunity to put money into it to like help them get this off the ground. But on top of that, it's not only because I'm I just believe in the project and I think they should be doing good, but there is also a future financial incentive for me. They're like through like maybe like their token or like some NFT, some exclusivity, maybe like the token will blow up and it will be worth a lot in the future. So I think that's a model where they can get way more money from the public and they can like launch a game and get like some, I don't know, like 1-2 years of time for them for building. I think that's for me at first glance, it sounds like a better model than the Kickstarter one that you mentioned.
One thing that actually has surprised me is how genuinely few Web3 games in the space actually do what you just said. For them, like outside of like Illuvium and a few others, the majority actually don't sell a token that's actual equity in the business. What they do instead is they fundraise by selling like NFTs or like something that just has speculative value, and they don't give away any equity. And I think that's actually in a lot of ways a mistake, because like people are more and more just seeing through that, because people really do want equity. Such like I'm pretty sure that Star Atlas, like all the spaceships that they sold, like from my knowledge, they're literally just something that you'll be able to buy when the game comes out, and you really are just supporting the project there. Like they maybe have some collector value or whatever, but you're kind of just supporting the project. And I think a lot of them do just do that. And I don't blame them, because they're like, oh, well, there's a bunch of like hype, the market's going up. And like the other thing I was going to mention is I think this is a much better space to raise money for indie devs when the market's going up. So like right now, maybe not the best time to raise money for a crypto game. And you know, it depends as well on what devs do. I'm really what I'm very excited for is devs to come along and go, we're not gonna we really like everything that's happening here, like the potential, but what we want to do is we want to build a good game, and we don't want to incorporate the cancerous culture of hashtag Pepe and like meme coins into it. We don't want any weird shit. We just want a fun game that's literally just a game with crypto built in a way that doesn't harm the game in any way. And just like that's the priority, and focus on a fun game, and then just have crypto on top that, you know, in a non-intrusive, non-disgusting way that actually is interesting. And I think people would invest in something like that.
I actually, well, I know it's my own point, but I actually have like some issue with this as well. That I think and I think we already have seen this. If there is like, okay, so if developers, again, an indie project, I think if it's really good, I think the police is coming for me. I hear some sirens outside, but if the game is really good and it has a lot of promise, what did Illuvium do? What does like a lot of these like top projects do? Well, not only top projects lately, but whatever. They go to VCs for backing. And what's the incentive for like getting money from me versus getting money from a VC as a developer? What I'm saying is like the top projects will get access to VCs, and VCs will get priority to these top projects. Why? Because VCs have a network that can help them grow the game. They have connections. They can like, okay, we give you this money, but like they give us this money, but they don't only give us money. They give us the network, the connections, and like that's, as a top gaming project, I want to get money from like a VC like this than from like random plebs on the internet. So then I think it kind of brings on a situation where if you are mainly getting money from the general public, from the plebs, then maybe you're not a very like good project, right? Like maybe like you are sacrificing, like you're kind of like, that sounds cool, and that sounds like a brave, like noble idea of like, okay, let's just get the public in, but you're literally like on purpose diminishing your edge. Like you could get your platform, you could get your game way faster off the ground if you get all these connections, all these like maybe like more like amounts of money and all this like network, than if you like open up the investing to the general public. So yeah, I think there's an issue there, and I think, yeah, again, if you're the top, like if you have like a lot of potential, you have like a top gaming project, I don't know if it makes much sense to like go for funding, go to the general public. I don't know. What do you guys think about this idea?
For me,
If I could just respond real quick, but like
Yeah.
I actually agree with what you're saying, and I think it's a mix of the two. So Illuvium, for example, they obviously did a private raise first, and I think it's very important to get those connections, as you said. But the other thing that Illuvium has gained from doing then a public raise, not only the money that the public raise gave them, because obviously they're not really going to get like the same exact contacts they're going to get from VCs. But once you secure VC funding, if you can get the plebs in, what you've done is you've formed a community base around your project. And I think that's what's invaluable. And like, if you then tell your community accurate timelines, that's great. And you hit those deadlines, you're amazing. Like the Illuvium's had some struggles with that, but
Yeah, I think that actually makes a lot of sense. And that's a good response, I guess. So you probably have a mix of both. So you have like the VC funding in the beginning, like you basically try to get the best of both worlds, because you're right. Like if you get like general public in, okay, let's stop calling them plebs. If you get the general public in, that will be like your loyal community. And we've seen that, we see that on Twitter every fucking day, where like we have all this like shit meme coins or like shit projects, but because people bought a bag there, they have a bag there, they're like spamming every comment section. They're like just going everywhere, like shilling this like shit projects. But why? Because they are invested in it. So you're kind of like leveraging the community aspect of it. And I think crypto, if anything, crypto shows the power of having a community that is also invested, like that is also incentivized for you to succeed, not just like, they are cool, I hope they succeed. No, like, they are cool, and if they succeed, actually make money. That's when you see like a lot of like shit posting and a lot of just like trying to spread the word. So I think that's also, a valuable resource for a very valuable resource for a gaming project.
I think one of the interesting things for me, that's a little bit on looking at it from in a different way, is it really depends. It depends on the developers and who they are really, which is I know a very general statement, but the reason for that is because in crypto there's not as much regulation, obviously, and that's changing, but there's not as much regulation, and therefore, and there's also anonymity, right? But there's also not as many people to say, okay, we are going to hold you accountable for your actions. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of projects out there that can just hard rug, soft rug, whatever you want to call it, can just basically say, oh, we're not developing it anymore. And you know that those NFTs you bought that we're going to have 10% share of profit or whatever it may be, we're just not doing it anymore. And they can very easily do that in crypto. And this is one of the big reasons why crypto is not really thought about too seriously by a lot of people in the mainstream. It's because of this reason, where people can just go off and rug you very easily. And I think that's one of the issues also with the game developers raising funds through crypto. I think it's something that's been on my mind. Obviously, you see meme coins rugging and you see random projects rugging all the time, but these guys have to be incentivized to create a game. And if you fund them too well, sometimes too well, but also too easily, in the form of, either tokens, pre-sale tokens, or NFTs, or whatever it may be, then who's going to hold them accountable? Is it the law? Because we don't really have investor protection in crypto, do we? I mean, to a certain extent, we might. In some countries, they might be able to do something, but in general, we don't. So I think that's got to be solved before these developers are actually going to jump on the bandwagon. Because if everyone thinks it's just a wild west, which it is, then I'm not sure if it's going to be that easy for these developers to actually raise money through crypto.
That's a very good point. And you talk about raising with tokens and NFTs, and it kind of ties in really nicely because Judd has just made a pretty good comment here. He's saying, when you're doing a raise for a game in Web3, you don't want it to be token-based, as that it usually is terrible for maintaining stability later. You want to raise using in-game assets. And I think that's kind of what Vetemor might have touched on, is like by getting these people involved, you instantly create your player base, because if you're invested in it financially, you're going to play the game and at least give it a go, right? Now, I guess the question is, do we think raising via token is better or via the in-game assets? What are your guys' opinions on that?
I personally prefer raising via token. I think it's better because people are then invested. Like, it's not like, oh, I just bought some ships for Star Atlas, but like I actually don't own a piece of the pie. The reason why, for example, in Illuvium's token price, that it's been terrible for maintaining stability later. The only reason for that is like we didn't hit the deadlines that were given. But like, if they had just made the intention was that there's a certain lockup time for like different types of investors and all this stuff, and there's staking. If the game had come out when it initially was supposed to, the token price would have been fine, because they've actually, I think it's the most genius thing, like got a system of revenue distribution that's such that anything that gets spent in the game by players, that revenue goes into buying back the token and distributing that token to the investors, constantly putting buy pressure on the token, perma supporting the price. And then when people receive those rewards, like, they can sell them, but like some will keep them, some amount, likely more than like, you know, a good amount of people will keep them because they're still earning you those rewards. And then I think that's actually a really good system if you can actually like hit the production deadlines. Maybe just have like a longer lookup and set more realistic deadlines. Not a fan of giving people really bullish deadlines, getting everyone insanely hyped for a project, and then it turns out that not only is it not coming in 2 months, it's actually not going to be there in a year yet. Not a fan of that.
Yeah, I mean, with Illuvium, I think it's a very rare case, as you mentioned earlier. There's not. I think Illuvium's only one of the few projects that have revenue distribution. But
yeah,
let's think of it from a developer's perspective, right? What if they don't want to do 100% revenue distribution? Because let's be honest, the practicality of doing 100% revenue distribution, as we have seen, particularly in the last, say, year, has caused a lot of issues, particularly when we promise something and then we have to amend it. Like the Illuvitar sale is a good example where we had to, because we're getting a little bit worried about runway.
So the only reason that's happened, though,
Yep.
the only reason we've had to do that is because the leadership of Illuvium wasn't mature enough to acknowledge when the token price was above $1,000. We need to we need to raise money right now. We need to sell some of this treasury because we could just de-risk this entire project and have enough runway for the next 30 years. Like, they could have just done that, and they didn't. They funnily, sort of, Kieran blames the community for that, because the community was like, oh, but like, can we invest on that raise? But it's like, well, we'd have to build a whole thing for you guys to be able to do that. But if we just sold to VCs, they wouldn't have had to build a whole infrastructure around it. That ended up backfiring. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's definitely a concern. But I think, well, that once again, that comes down to why, if you're a developer in the normal gaming industry and you look at these issues that the Illuvium devs are following, and I actually listened to another one, I think it was with Aaron Warwick and the head of Gods Unchained, I forgot his name, Chris something. They were talking about how from the outside in, it looked pretty easy to manage, like, a decentralized organization, but then when you actually do it, it's difficult. And now you've got developers like, well, the idea of doing 100% revenue sounds great in theory, but there's a lot of complications. So now the question is, if they want to, issue a token or versus an NFT, let's assume there's no revenue distribution. Which of the two do you think is better for those that don't want to deal with this revenue distribution characteristic of the token?
Oh, if you don't want to deal with revenue distribution, then there's sort of no point. I don't think the token works well enough, and then you should just fund with just VCs in the background, and then engage the community by selling them NFTs. My only caveat to the selling them NFTs thing is, so for example, like Mirandus, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mirandus, they like sold NFTs, and this for me was sort of bizarre math, but the way that they did it was the NFTs basically could earn you money and all this stuff, and you essentially owned almost like the actual landscape is owned by players. And then when the game comes out, they want to engage like as many people as possible to come in, but like there's like the potential that one person could own all of like the iron and like have a monopoly on it, and then make it really expensive for anyone to have a sword and like stuff like that. And I think like the game that you're making still needs to end up fun, and it needs to end up with not like this weird tyrannical system. And that's my concern. And I would, if you're then going to be engaging a community with NFTs, I'd actually rather you do the Star Atlas route of just sell something that has in-game utility but isn't pay to win directly.
Actually, I want to bring up something on the part of like having a token versus like having NFTs. And that's the thing of like the danger of like something like this becoming or like being categorized by the SEC as a security. We've talked about this a bit like in other meetings, but basically if you are buying a token, and that's like the purpose is like as an investment, basically the model we were talking about here, how likely is it like that at some point maybe like the project gets big enough or gets like enough attention, how is that so like by the way, like to be a security, it has to like meet the Howey test. So yeah, I have it here like ChatGPT God. It involves an investment of money in a common enterprise with profits to come from the efforts of others. So that's why I think like that's why like you have like on the stock market with you investing in like companies and that kind of stuff. I don't know how much legally you can do this in crypto. Like, yeah, it's still like unregulated, like Wild West stuff, but I'm curious, like maybe like if you know Vetemor or like if you are aware of this kind of stuff of like with the tokens, like how with Illuvium tokens, right? Like if you buy Illuvium tokens, you're staking, you're just like basically you're investing money in a common enterprise with profits coming solely from the efforts of others, and they are not registered as a security. So like what's the dangers of this token type of funding? Like, is there more than we are like, is there more than we think it is? And does it have more legal implications than we think? And maybe that kind of makes it like a bad model for the future, because maybe it does get regulated at some point and crypto projects will stop being able to offer that. Because I think, sorry, just for like Gala, like I think we saw that like a speculation of this, Ricky, right, in your Gala investigation, where they just like coming out like there is actually no benefit to holding Gala. There is no like revenue distribution from the Gala. You don't get anything because they are maybe afraid to be categorized as a security and then like getting cracked down on and so on and so forth. So then like if you can't sell a token that actually does something or like gets you like a share of the revenue, then like why have a token?
Yeah, so honestly, if I personally had to set up a company with a rev share, like I probably just wouldn't do it as a crypto company, or at least in this way, without like registering and lawyers and all that stuff. The main reason that it was done this way, at least it appears to be this way, is actually for tax reasons. So obviously, if like a normal company earns revenue, and it then like revenue, like they deduct their costs, and then on that profit they pay tax, and then from whatever's left they can distribute that to shareholders, and then shareholders pay their own tax on their dividends. in this model, there's just no taxing the company. Because it isn't a company, because it's technically like a decentralized organization, there is no entity there technically. So that seems like the reason, but I think it's a huge risk. I mean, as much as anything, it looks like the law is kind of fine for now, but like it is a perma risk. Hopefully it plays out. I think the way that Illuvium gets around it legally is that we don't distribute profits. If you read anything, you'll never see the word profit. What we distribute is revenue minus cost.
Okay. Yeah. So okay. Well, that's the thing, right? So like
revenue
like,
less cost. Sorry.
Yeah. So I think that's obviously like a huge danger, and that's why like how like this model, how sustainable is this kind of model for funding? So basically here what I have is like, for example, if you buy a token that gives you a share of the profits from a decentralized platform that is run by a team of developers, then you are probably buying a security. On the other hand, if you buy a token that simply acts as a medium of exchange or a store of value, then you are probably not buying a security. So again, this is when I got like to like, okay, how can crypto be categorized or not categorized as security? But I think that's what we are saying, and that's what we're talking about here. That's the incentive, like buy a token, give you share of the profits from like, again, like this team run by like developers and stuff. So I was curious what you think about this. So you see also like quite some risk to this model of like offering a token like this.
I don't have a legal background, so I can't speak to exactly just how risky it is.
But it does sound risky.
But right? I feel like there's got to be some risk there. Hopefully, if anything does like crack down, we can still like fight it with lawyers and stuff. Like we've spoken about it on the council several times, and both like the leadership and the legal teams aren't actually concerned about it, which frankly is like, it's not that they're not concerned, like they're definitely like constantly looking into it, but it's just they actually feel quite confident about their position. Also the fact that Binance listed Illuvium is a very strong green light, because Binance, they do a ton of research into you, and if you even smell like a security, you're not getting listed. So the Binance listing was one of the biggest green flags for why Illuvium will not be classified as a security ever, and I that's why I'm not too concerned about Illuvium. But like, if I had to like set it up myself, I don't trust myself to not make a security out of it, because I think that's a real fine line to tread. And yeah, it's a thing. Yeah.
Just I know this is a little bit of a shoot the messenger moment, but I will remind people that FTX, well, when I was setting up my business professional FTX account, they did a lot of looking into me as well, and it was a long 2-week process of, formation documents, everything like that. So we just got to be skeptical about centralized exchanges and their, let's quote unquote, due diligence. But no, definitely good point. I think it seems like we just continue. The group generally just agrees with a lot of your philosophies, Vetemor. So it's hard to find something we disagree on. I want to move on past developers. I want to look more so at publishers now. So
I actually have one question.
Go for it,
for you guys. So given the situation that we all agree that current crypto environment is just in a big problem, we obviously see it like with all these rug pulls, scams, everything that's going on. We also now have AI. Some guy created in 27 seconds meme coin, whatever. We are gonna have probably a huge flood of like scam coins and all kind of stuff now going on, and I think it will get worse for sure. So which of the two models would you guys prefer? or is there a way for one of those models to solve this issue, or at least control it a little bit, fight it in some way?
So yeah, Ronan, you want to go?
I don't know. I'm just probably my answer is probably going to be quite simple on this, and I think that there's no real way to control this other than there to be some sort of accountability for rugging, or some sort of legal accountability. And yeah, we want to stay away from centralization as much as possible, but yeah, there are some legal issues that happen with crypto. That there are some legal issues with crypto that are undeniable, right? And that's going to apply to crypto gaming as well, because of course there are plenty of game projects that have rugged, NFT projects. I mean, Logan Paul's Crypto Zoo is a classic example. He wanted to make a crypto game, and then like Pokemon, he shilled the shit out of it, and then they basically rugged. And then because there's no accountability, he ran away. And if it wasn't for that CoffeeZilla video, he probably wouldn't have addressed it. And so that's the state of the industry at the moment when it comes to
which model has a better potential to tokens or NFTs? Because it feels like with tokens,
yeah,
you in some way, these tokens are like what we have now, right?
Yeah,
mostly in the crypto, right? Everything is tokenized. You go buy token for something, whatever, right?
yeah. I mean, look, I don't. As I said, I just don't think that there is an alternative. Maybe the other guys have another opinion to it. I don't think there is anything else right now that makes it any better, because it's inherent in the industry. The industry is a wild west, right? Because it has no regulation. When you don't regulate someone, you're always going to have people that do criminal, illegal things, right? And that's in any industry, right? And it's always going to exist. Don't get me wrong. We've discussed this many times, and it's going to exist in crypto the same way it exists in our traditional financial markets. But the point is that there's no accountability. At least in our traditional financial markets and our traditional markets, there's some sort of accountability that exists. When it comes to scams and rugs at the moment, and you see that with meme coins. I mean, I was looking at Twitter before, guys, and I saw a few guys take the piss out of and joke about meme coins, and they made a video of how they made meme coins in 27 seconds, and then they released it onto the market for sale. 27 seconds, that's all it takes to make a meme coin, especially obviously the ones that do nothing.
What are we doing on this call?
Sorry?
What are we doing on this call then? This call is taking longer than 27 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like and that's the reason why people have lost a lot of money. Like we've seen, and this goes back to the video I made. We see all of these stories about people making lots of money, and how this is the way of the future and all this sort of stuff. And there's just so many scams. I think the same thing applies for crypto gaming. I mean, I'm not sure if you have any more experience than us, Vetemor, in terms of gaming projects that have rugged, but yeah, there's always going to be that, and I don't see any other way of dealing with it other than some sort of regulation. I mean, what do you guys think?
I think regulation is definitely one thing that will help massively, but even beyond regulation, like there's some extent of like, obviously let's say you can make a meme coin in 27 seconds. That's fine. Like you could make 10 billion different meme coins. No one's going to buy any of them. Like people need a reason to buy something. The only reason that a meme coin explodes, like Pepe, is because Pepe is an actual meme. Like it's actually a meme, and like a meme literally means like, something that many people recognize or whatever. It's like it's a group thing, and that will happen. It's an unfortunate part of crypto, but like, you know what? I don't even care anymore, because it's like everyone that's participating in that game is just playing the same game. They've all agreed. We're all playing the Ponzi game, and we're aware of it, and we're all gonna pile in because we think that more people will pile in, and we're going to try and get out before everyone. Like, that's just the game. And it's like, oh, let's see who can play this game, you know? And you know, like, let them play the game. But like, when it comes to crypto gaming, like, personally, if I had to like build a game today, I just wouldn't build it in crypto. Like, I just wouldn't. Like, personally, if I had to personally, because I'm in the Illuvium community and I have been in it as long as I have, and I honestly just care about both the community and the game. And at this point, I really want to play the game. Like, I'm gonna do my best to like help it in any way to be the best it can be, and to make that model work, because I think it's far too, we're just too far gone to make anything else. And I think that's like making the best of the situation. I think there's a lot that can be done in the niche. But like, as for like a fresh gaming company, like, it's not popping right now. It's not trending. So like, AI is trending. Make an AI game.
Yeah. I mean, and actually that's a good point, where like, oh yeah, like crypto gaming, we're like still trying to like figure out like, how does it actually help gaming like crypto? But then like you have like something like AI, you're like, oh yeah, wait, like AI can like improve everything. Yeah, and yeah, especially also like gaming, it can like, and is being used and can be used a lot in gaming. And like, okay, so I feel like we have like this issue here where we're trying to like force ourselves to like find some like good use cases for like how crypto can be useful, because yeah, like you said, like you probably would not build like a Web3 game now. But yeah, I think that's one of the big challenges here with crypto, like finding it's like finding like a product market fit, right? Like finding like, again, like referring something like back more like to the beginning of what I said, of like, okay, why are people gonna come to crypto gaming? Why are we gonna get mass adoption? Like, what can we offer them that will bring them here? And I think it's a hard question. I think it still has like potential, but like I think we're not really seeing that thing yet. And if we just try to like, and I think that's not the way. That's not like, and I started to think like it's not the way to like be like mainstream gaming but better. I think it's more like having some specific genres, like Ricky said earlier, like some specific niches that are better served being on crypto. And that's probably what's going to happen. Not like, oh, everything will become crypto gaming, but more like, okay, some specific use cases and specific products will leverage the technology and ideas within crypto to become an irreplaceable game or product for a specific type of person, for like a specific niche of gamer. Not like, oh yeah, like everyone will be a crypto gamer in like 5 years or something.
I want to just bring it back to Dushan's question. I think we're misinterpreting his question. He's asking, like, so Vetemor, you said if you were to build a Web3 game now, you wouldn't include crypto. But what if you went to these big publishers, which generally a lot of these indie developers do, and, you know, Sony, Activision, whatever, one of these big publishers, they go, nah, we don't want to fund you. You know, you go to some VCs, we don't want to fund you. And, you know, you really believe in this game that you're about to create. So your only option is to go to either, say, something like Kickstarter, or to go to the crypto community and go, all right, we're going to do it like this. Is there value in, and maybe you don't even need to do token. Let's literally just talk about in-game assets here. So, you know, like I said earlier, with Kickstarter, you can provide soundtracks and whatnot, or provide NFTs. Are you still going to maintain being within the normal gaming funding space through Kickstarter, or would you explore the NFT side of things?
So I would say that firstly, I would need to evaluate what is the genre of game that I'm developing. I don't actually have a game that I'm developing. So, but like, if I feel that genuinely there is no value that's being added by NFTs to my game, what I would do is I would make a Web2 game, but I would use crypto to fund it, in the sense of maybe I can't get those VCs to fund me from like Sony or whatever and mainstream, but crypto gaming VCs, or just crypto VCs as a whole, I can just do that. Like I can just get them to fund it. Maybe even make a token, come up with some kind of a system. Like who knows? Like this is something I'm unaware of, but theoretically, what if you actually make a security, but just get it like, is there a way to have a legal security? Is that like a thing? Or is it just not?
As in like a crypto token that becomes a security? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Or a security has to be regulated.
I mean, I think
that's just not legal.
I think that's kind of why a lot of the companies right now are hounding the commissioner about, you need to give us some framework. Like we want to, I think this is the thing that a lot of people don't realize is a lot of these crypto companies do want to comply. They actively, like there's heaps of talks about big company or big crypto projects going to, to discuss with the SEC, like, can we do this? Can we do that? And unfortunately, there's just no framework that's been created. So to answer your question, it's probably, there's just no framework. So people probably want to do that, but they can't do that because it's just not happening. But yeah, it is an interesting question. I like Dushan's question because in my personal opinion, I think if you are going to go down the Kickstarter route, I think you may as well go down the NFT route. Like for me as a gamer, if I am going to spend I saw this one game the other day. It was like asking for $400 and they were giving you like a soundtrack, like a couple of skins. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to spend $400 to support your game, I kind of would prefer that to be an NFT. I mean, I know NFTs get a bad rap in gaming, but like, I mean, that to me is better than a soundtrack and a couple of skins, you know what I mean? So if they're the two alternatives, I think for me personally, I would always go down the NFT route. I just think you probably fund better in the NFT community anyway, as opposed to the Kickstarter one. So I think I guess that's value for the developer. But yeah, at the moment, it seems like our conversation is very difficult to find some positives. So I want to move us on to, unless you want to say something, Vetemor.
What if the game that you just talked about, like you fund it with these NFTs, right? Like what benefit are you providing with those NFTs if your game itself, the core of your game that you're trying to create, doesn't actually like provide, like it doesn't actually require NFTs? Or are you just saying some kind of like cosmetic NFTs?
Yeah, like a cosmetic NFT, and that's kind of where I've always been. Like let's actually get the cosmetic NFT game business model done right now. And let's actually get a few examples of that, and then let's move into something a little bit more complicated. That's kind of like my entry point for crypto gaming is like, we haven't really seen anything that just purely does cosmetics and it is as simple as that. I think we as a go on.
So there's a big like general misunderstanding, and I say that as somebody that also misunderstood this until very recently. The only games that are actually successful that monetize only through cosmetics and nothing else are games that actually have a massive IP and a massive player base, and they really do generate almost no money from the vast majority of their player base. And the way that they make money is those very few people, but there's such a massive player base that they make tons of money. But when you are making a niche game, there are case studies of games that had like that as their only form of monetization, and they failed. They completely failed. They were like, we want to make a game for the gamers that's going to be really fun. It's like just a great game, and there's no weird like monetization. There's nothing. It's just and the game just completely died because there's really only like 2, 3, 4 games in the world that can actually maintain that level of like retention, and that are just that popular.
Well, why does that work in the first place, right? Like you're buying those skins to differentiate yourself among like huge pools of players, right? I mean, that's the like, come on, at the end of the day, you're kind of like, okay, like status, look at my skin. Like, but if you're like playing against like 5 guys, like who cares if you have a skin or not? And I guess, yeah, I think that's a good point there. Like skins make sense. Like who wants to own skins in a game that nobody plays? Like how is that a thing? And yeah, I think that's the challenge with doing like solo skins or like marketing yourself like revenue through skins. I think people will only want skins if they can think they have like a lot of status in like a big community, in like a big pool of people. That's probably like a big incentive for skins, not only aesthetically, but I think that's like a huge component. That was the thing with NFTs, right? Like you can flex on so many. Why are people like spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on like Bored Apes and all this like random shit? Because people can see, oh, it's like kind of like status signaling, right? Like, oh yeah, this guy had like money, or like whatever this guy has this NFT, they can show it on Twitter or whatever. But yeah, I think that's a challenge there with skins.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good point, and something I was unaware of with the case study. So it'll be interesting to look into the future. I do want to move over to something that I think most people, particularly in the gaming industry, do agree that there is value for blockchain technology, something that we have really struggled to find in today's stream. And I do want to kind of wrap this up fairly shortly. So blockchain technology helping publishers fight piracy and protecting their game. So what they're talking about here is, what if the game was an NFT and was in your wallet, and the only way to access, so rather than logging into a Steam account, you access the game through your wallet? Because, I mean, theoretically, I don't think people are going to share wallets, but I know a lot of people would share their Steam account, their Epic Games account, because let's be honest, it's not that valuable. Like, you know,
why would they not share their wallet?
Well, because
a wallet, they just made the wallet for just the one game or like a few games.
Well, I mean, practically speaking, it's a little bit more difficult to share a wallet. This is something that a lot of big game publishers are looking into, whether they can turn their game into like the key, the NFT is the signature to get into the game. Do you guys think there's value in that, or is that just kind of, are we just
how big of an issue actually is Steam account sharing, and how much does it really impact game developers' revenue? Like, really?
Well,
like,
yeah,
that's the question.
Yeah, I don't know, but this is something that they're looking into. So if publishers are looking into it, then I think perhaps there is.
And I think Daniel raises a really good point. Like, I would literally make a crypto, if I'm into the whole account sharing thing, I'll make you can make a new wallet like all day long. Just make a new wallet that's literally exclusively in like air quotes, Steam wallet, and then just put all my games in there, and we just share it with a group of friends. And like, there's no real it's not trustless, but like, it's not that hard.
Yeah. Okay. No, fair enough. I mean, I'm just.
No, well, I've actually got a response to this. So firstly, the response to how big of an issue is it? Well, we've seen Netflix actually crack down on this very significantly, right? So they're having a lot of troubles with that cutting into their costs pretty significantly. I'm not sure about Steam. I'm not sure about games, but look, in
Netflix
general,
is more common, right?
Netflix is part of the culture. Like, that's a cultural phenomena, and it's like just everyone does it. But with Steam, like, I play many games with people on Steam. I have one friend that I've shared my Steam account with, and he never uses it because we both own the same games anyway. It was like just in case. And I think most people, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a prevalent thing.
think actually Netflix incentivizes people to like account share, because you can watch like multiple people can watch at the same time and stuff. Like with Steam, like you can only use one account at the same time, right? Like you cannot just like have multiple people logged in at once. So I think that even that makes it like very annoying to share accounts. Like, hey, I want to play the game, then I have like, that's like a lot of headache to share accounts with someone. And like also I feel like it does feel like Steam is more like personal. It has done a good job of integrating more aspects, not only a game platform, but you have friends messaging you on there and conversations and whatever. So I think they are actually at disincentivizing people to share accounts, whereas like Netflix is like you just like click on a profile and you can watch movies for free, right? So
But
yeah.
But to sort of counter what we just said, the benefit that there can be of selling games on using the blockchain, like instead of like you own it's on your wallet. I think the benefit for game developers is just avoiding the 30% Steam like takes or whatever. I think it's 30%, because like that does eat into their profits for real, and that's a real thing.
Wait, 30% what?
Doesn't Steam take like 30% revenue on any game you buy on Steam?
Oh,
Yeah,
Something
yeah,
like
it does.
that. Yeah.
So
That
okay.
like I think that genuinely is a solve for that, but I don't think it's actually a solve for that yet. I think it's a solve for that issue if we get to the place where the world's already adopted crypto, because it's not a solve if you have like 100 times less player base. Who cares about the 30%? Let Steam have it. So
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
what I was going to say with the Steam thing is, I think yes, they might take 30%, and that might sound egregious, but I think at the end of the day, you're paying for the marketing, really. Like when you get your game on Steam, you've got access to the biggest, mainstream gaming market out there. So, okay, well, yeah, I mean, if that's interesting, it was just something I thought I'd bring up, because I know there are some big publishers out there who are looking into this, and perhaps maybe our opinion. You're right. I haven't actually seen many people share Steam accounts or Epic Games accounts or whatever. I do know a lot of people share Riot Games accounts. I know that is definitely common, because, there's boosting and whatnot. That's a completely different issue, which we won't cover today. But I definitely know with some of these more competitive games, there's definitely a lot more account sharing. You got smurfing, which is a big problem. But so perhaps maybe not so much a distraction, a problem. And then the final point I want to look at is esports. So,
let's go. I was hoping you're gonna.
Yeah. We'll end on esports, because I know
interesting.
Daniel's been he's been etching for this, and I think Vetemor, you were talking a lot about the cheating aspect in professional gaming, and how by incorporating these, like the dead drop, having like $10,000 skins and whatnot, is going to be an issue. So, okay, so I'm going to start with Daniel's question, since he wants to talk about this. Can crypto gaming become a better hub for competitive esports gamers, as they can earn a living more easily compared to Dota, where only the top 0.1% make money? So I think what you're referring to here is, rather than people like the top 0.1% getting invited to play these big tournaments, can blockchain technology facilitate perhaps more grassroots esports and still reward the players through perhaps, tokens or NFTs and whatnot?
Yeah. I'm thinking more like of a model where more gamers are rewarded with like something for their time, with money in this case, or like some kind of like monetary incentive. Because I think as gaming becomes more widespread, more of a thing, more and more people like play games, more and more people want to do this for a living. So can crypto become a platform for these people who want to game for a living, in a way that, again, more people make money, instead of like in Dota, it's not like, it's like the top 0.01% in skill people make all the money and everyone else makes zero money, basically. So can crypto facilitate a better environment for this? For example, I don't know, just something like just comes up off the top of my head. It's like, what if there are resources? Let's say there's a game, there are resources, and instead of buying these resources from the player, the in-game store, what if these resources, so like there's like the game just makes them out of nowhere? What if these resources are getting farmed? They are the elite guys who can have a lot of skill, and they can like farm these resources, and they sell them to like the players that need these resources. And of course, they share revenue with the platform, the game developers. I'm just thinking, yeah, like ways where you incentivize competition, but it's more like a niche thing. Again, like for example, I know like Dushan here is in touch with that. Well, follows that community a lot, but let's say like fighting games community, where that's like a niche thing. That's like it takes a ton of skill to play like Tekken 7, 8. If you guys ever like tried or something, you can see like how badly you suck at that. And like I remember like spending hours to try to get better, but nothing. So those are games that are highly competitive. What if we can offer them a platform? Because most people don't make anything there. If crypto can offer them a platform for like getting more revenue, for like giving them a chance to like play for a living? But it has to be in a way, it has to be in a way that's like sustainable, and it's just like a rewarding performance in a more fair way, not just like 0.01% making money. But that's kind of like my big picture question or thing.
So when you say that, do you mean like there's some level of like almost play to earn, or is it like the poker structure of like entering a tournament, pay a prize like an entry fee, and then like have a like battle between X amount of players?
I haven't really thought about this one like through that much. It just like came to me like the other day or today.
Mhm.
But it basically like that both can be an option. I'm just thinking about like, I think there is, so I think what I'm saying is like, I think there is demand, and there's growing demand for people to what they want to play for a living because they love gaming. They love, we grew up as gamers. So, I mean, that's actually how I started poker. I was just playing games a lot and like, hey, this is an online game. I can play for money. And that's how I started. So I think the demand for that will only grow. And what if crypto can address that demand? That's in some ways. That's both of my questions.
The largest concern I have generally for that, and I wish it wasn't the case, but cheating is disgustingly prevalent, generally. Maybe there are certain types of games where it's harder to cheat. Maybe there's improving anti-cheat systems, but then like we're also at the point where like when it comes to first-person shooters, you can cheat in a 100% undetectable way. Like that literally can't be detected, and there's no anti-cheat that can fix that. That's a solved issue. You just get a camera to watch your monitor. So there's no way to like acknowledge that there's a camera watching, and then just have like essentially like a robot controlling the mouse, and like that's it. Like that's solved. But like and like in esports, for example, like esports tournaments for a reason happen in person. Pokemon esports to this day, you just there's no way to get entry into the top tournament. You need to go to live events, qualifiers to qualify, because it's just you can just cheat. Like you can just have a bot doing everything for you, and I think that's the cheating thing is unfortunately just the biggest thing. And I think that we in crypto will be targeted, because if you create a financial incentive for cheaters, where cheating is already really prevalent, as like what's been found out about like Tarkov, an entire game where they basically figured out that like almost every lobby has at least one cheater, and there was even like an underground cheater culture where they would even like acknowledge each other through the walls with like a wiggle, and like that's crazy. So imagining if there's a financial incentive, it's just like and there is that fight to fight. There are ways to go about it, and there are maybe ways to design games that are somehow more cheat proof. I'm actually still shocked to this day that poker just still works. There's still online poker. Like how has nobody just cracked that when they have actually like bots exist that can beat the algorithm, and they can just beat players like consistently. But like maybe we should ask poker how they do it.
Well, there is cheating. in
There is
poker.
definitely cheating.
There is cheating, and even like, well, the way they do it at the higher stakes is through a community of high stakes players, and nobody just comes up in poker out of nowhere, just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna play high stakes from nothing. So that's where like the community knows they know who each other are, because there's not that many people. It's like 100 people in this Discord, and if someone comes up out of nowhere and they like start playing like very good, everyone is suspicious, and they're like, okay, who is this account? Who is this guy? So it's kind of like a gatekeeping from the community itself, because cheating does exist, but yeah, it's kind of contained at the higher stakes through this, just like the community gatekeeping itself. And yeah, other than that, it's kind of hard to prevent it. It's definitely happening at lower and mid stakes more prevalently. So yeah, it does happen.
I'll be back in 2 seconds. I need to open the front door for my wife because she forgot her keys.
Sure,
Of course.
All good.
No, just leave her there.
Um,
Yeah. If you want to go ahead, Ricky, with other like esports topics or questions, or like what you guys think about this, because I do think that that's a fair point. Maybe there is not much route for like people making a living with all the like dangers of cheating, I guess.
Here's the thing, like there's probably a reason why top 1% or top 0.001% make it in most fields, right? What money are we actually talking about? That really will depend on the popularity and how big the game is, right? Let's say football, right? You can play in a second league or third league in some small country and still make a good living. You are professional. You're not making Cristiano Ronaldo type of money, but you're doing fine. In chess, top whatever 50 guys probably make some money. Top 10 make ridiculous amount of money, totally disproportionate. Dota, I don't know, like you just see this, like it more mimics chess than these like football and stuff like that, like sports, like normal sports. So like if I look at like current models that we have, and we have Dota, I think they are doing a pretty good stuff with their esport, right? They always have the biggest rewards, and they do it by selling skins and donating part of those skins to the prize pool, right? And that's one interesting idea, and I guess companies in crypto can develop some type of mechanism or a part of NFT, right? Like some smart contract that will say that whenever you sell it, small percentage of the whatever token or price goes to this pool that's like for professional players, and I can see that happening. Of course, we touch about cheating, and it's a huge problem in everything, and especially with the AI. And I have heard some encouraging words where developers are saying how AI will be used to counter cheating, which is like always the other side of the coin. So yeah, overall, it for sure innovates the industry, and it will give some new options that we are not even thinking about will develop around esports and blockchain, because there's money, there's game. Let's make it better work. I don't know. At least I hope. Like, I'm optimistic about it.
Yeah.
I want to.
Yeah, maybe you will see some solutions. Yeah, go ahead, Ricky.
I want to move away from the cheating topic of the esports. I want to talk about something a little bit more outside of the box, and actually, I am going to say that this was an Xborg member. I think his name is Migas. He wrote an interesting thread on Twitter about ownership of game data. So generally, game data and player data is owned by the company that produced the game, or maybe some third-party operator. But what happens if we can give, like allow players to own their game data and actually utilize that in ways to create a more, first of all, like performance analytics. So people who are coming up through esports, and let's be honest, these days a lot of kids want to aspire to be a professional gamer as opposed to a professional footballer or whatnot. And do we think that perhaps blockchain technology can provide a bit more of a connection between fans and players through not only just the data, but also perhaps with like NFT communities and airdrops of certain, I don't know, like merchandise, virtual merchandise and stuff like that? Or do we think that that sort of model is not?
Well, it's already existing, right? Like there's a lot of these guys who have their own merch, or a lot of these like players, a lot of this, like they have their own websites with they're selling their like this top gaming guys or the gaming influencers, or think there is, or you think like there can be optimized?
Well, I'm just
gaming.
putting the question out there is, do we think that these NFT communities provide additional value to these esport individuals? Because at the moment the current route is generally join a big team organization. For you to make money, you generally have to go to a team organization and you have to sign a contract, basically lose 30-40% of your revenue and whatnot. Do we think particularly with NFTs, is there some sort of route that players can go down alternatively and not have to give up a lot of their share to, say, bigger organizations? Or is this something that we don't really see?
Well, as I said earlier, I think that there will be developed some new mechanics. Like I just said earlier, that like this approach that Dota has, that could be translated into crypto, right? Selling of NFTs, creating some pool, small percentage, you can like put some smart contracts in it or whatever, and from every sale, smart percentage goes to this like pool that will support the development of the professional scene and whatever, and maybe top 1,000 players will, or 10,000 players, depends on how big the game is, will get something, and maybe like that way developers can support players and use that as a still as a catch to promote their game. I think that's kind of an interesting concept, and I think the similar concepts will develop further, right, with like some things that we are not even thinking. I'm now just thinking like what we already have available. And obviously that Valve is doing something very well, because Dota always has the biggest prize pools, right, in esports in the several years in the past. So overall, yeah, I think there are some ways to take advantage of crypto and smart money in the first place. Maybe not even game, but smart money, right? You can program it, you can use it for all the kind of different things.
Basically a way to make it more like poker, right? Like a way like you can make money at poker at the lower stakes, you can make money like going up stakes. Here the equivalent in Dota or this competitive, like really competitive games, only a few guys who play nosebleeds make money, and everyone else makes zero money. And like the top nosebleeds guys make a ton of money, make all the money, and everyone else just like they just make nothing. Whereas in poker, like you can make. So I'm saying this I'm talking about this example because I know like my brother tried to be like a Dota player, a pro Dota player for a while. He actually took it very seriously, and then he's also like someone like he's very skilled, but he tried for like I think like 2 years or something. And he saw like, even though he's very good, and even though like he was playing a lot and he's like very good working at, he's still like a very good player. The competition is just insane. You're like, you have to play, I don't know, like 17 hours or like 16 hours a day just to like have a shot. And even then there's like a ton of things. So it's just like a huge discrepancy. There's like a huge barrier to entry to like making a living from gaming now. I think it's very hard at this point to actually make a living for gaming, like as a pro, unless maybe you have to be streaming or something. But just by your performance alone, I feel like today it's very hard. And like you said, Dusan, and I think there's more and more people who want to do this. But the reality is like just that, like again, 99.99% of people will not be able to make a living. So yeah, I'm thinking if like maybe crypto can help with that in some ways, or like maybe like some models, like better like distribution models can come along.
With the question that was raised, like I don't have an actual like precise comment on that, but like 3 separate things came to mind that I kind of just want to mention. So one thing that sort of was in the question was like players owning their data, which brought to mind like as players are getting more into like wanting almost your gaming success is like part of your qualifications. But like when you post like I don't know, reached this like prestige or whatever in this game, had this KD, like those stats, there's actually no proof that you did any of that, and I could write that about myself. So maybe there's a way where players can have almost like the LinkedIn of gaming, some kind of cross-platform situation where games are feeding. I don't even know if this idea even requires crypto, but like it might be a bit too far-fetched or crazy, but it's just an idea that came to mind. The other one is with crypto, because it's sort of linked to the blockchain, if your actions in game are also linked to the blockchain, and other games can also read the actions that you've done in that game, hopefully on a layer 2 so that you're not paying a ton of gas along the way, but then maybe what if like one game builds almost like a custom gaming experience that's actually different for everyone that plays it. Maybe it's we actually get to like a place where you watch YouTube. Obviously, there's a YouTube algorithm, the way it delivers content to you, like everything sort of has this. What if gaming almost got to a place where like everything that you do in the game shows the type of gamer that you are, and the game delivers you more of that type of content? That's also an interesting concept. And the last one I was going to mention is one genuine concern with your game being on crypto. If you become really established and you become a big game, suddenly like like me as a really average person, I can just look at the blockchain and I can find out who are the biggest whales that spend the most money in Illuvium. Who are the 20,000 people that are the biggest spenders? These people, like, why even target loads of people and hope that some whales come in? I could just target the whales. I know their exact wallets. I know all of their user acquisition. If you're a small game, you just send all those wallets, some like prizes, some NFTs, some tokens, whatever. Like, there's genuine ways to just acquire people's users because there's a complete blockchain history of the player base and of how much that each player spends within the game, essentially. So those are 3 random points.
Yeah,
that's
this one is big.
Yeah, I like that third point. That's something I've never really considered, and I was thinking more so from data from the performance aspect. But now that you throw this spanner in the works, like we can actually see just their spending habits on chain, and this data is no longer privatized. Yeah, that's crazy, and I wonder what kind of cannibalism that will occur in the industry. I think that would probably be for the worse. I can't imagine that being for the better, but. That's an interesting take as well on decentralized data.
On the data point, well, first of all, actually, on your second point, Vetemor, I think that's gonna be with like that will be facilitated through AI, kind of these personalized gaming experiences. I don't think they have to be on crypto. I don't really see much use case, like a real necessity for crypto. But yeah, like having this, yeah, like having your past experiences, like basically having your own personalized movie, having your own personalized gaming experience. I think that will definitely be the case with AI and like the way it's growing so fast. And actually, I heard talks about this specific point in a podcast I watched. With the data stuff,
just quickly on the,
yeah.
I would just argue against the AI thing. Like, where's the AI going to get the training data from, though? Like, if all the data is decentralized, then the AI can access all of that. Like, there's no way private companies like Riot and Activision are going to come together and be like, oh, why don't we share our data together and create the ultimate gaming experience? I think there is a place for the AI to train off decentralized gaming data. If that's what maybe you were getting at, Vetemor, I'm not too sure. But
I think it's more like playing a game, right? Playing a game, and like as you play a game, the game experience gets more personalized to your style, and it gives you more of what engages you in that game to keep you there.
Yeah, I guess from a one game perspective, but I was thinking more so from an industry perspective is if you could have all that data of all different game genres and the AI learnt from all the data, it might be able to create the perfect game for the masses.
That would obviously be absolutely insane, but I agree with you. There's no way, because there's no incentive for them to release that data.
Correct.
That data is essentially like proprietary. Like that's all their money right there. Like
that data is worth billions maybe to them. Like there's no way they're going to share it. So maybe I don't know. It is all. I mean, that's probably more.
Gaming companies that have multiple games can do like pretty much what Daniel said. Input that data into an AI system, and they know also already have some level of preconception about the type of gamer that you are and your preferences, and you know that could be interesting. Who knows? But I think, as Daniel said, like there are some interesting possibilities that can happen there.
Yeah, and the I don't know if we are gonna say data or data. Yeah, the data part with like, I think you're referring, Ricky, to like owning your data, like your playing history or this kind of stuff, like that people cannot see it, or is this what we were meaning with it?
I was just more expanding on Vetemor's idea that if the game is fully on chain, that means, you know, all the data is on chain, then we could get access to all that information. But once again, I guess there's no incentive for, well, there might not be. I can't really think of
No, but like in the first point you made, like before, like in your original question, with like having your own data, having access to your own data, or
having access to your own data from, now he's making me say data, access to your own data, not that there's a right way of saying it, would be through, you know, a decentralized game, I guess. That's the only way you would get your own data, unless there's third party that could scrape and
like gaming, like the gaming.
Yeah, like gaming, like get your own gaming data.
I think there, it does make a I actually don't think if it's in the way I interpret it, I don't think it makes much sense, especially at the highest levels. I get it how as a player maybe you don't want to give away your like edge, your data, whatever, but that's what actually makes the game popular. Being able to, for people to see the pros and being able to see their games, it makes the game, I think it helps the game. The same thing happens at the highest stakes. You want people to be able to see the high stakes tables, and there's a lot of backlash from the community for not being able to do that. But I think that actually enhances the product, having your data open to everyone, because they can like it creates more like entertainment value. It creates like, hey, I can follow my favorite player and see like how he plays in his games, not only like once a year in these internationals, but I can follow him more like routinely and stuff. So I think it brings more to the game than it takes from it if we have public ability to
and that's what that thread was talking about, is that having that data open to the public and for yourself, and you can claim ownership over it, and then you can, maybe create sponsorships through it, because now, like you said, we're not just getting data from one tournament, we're getting data from his Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday sessions. That could be interesting as well. But I want to wrap up the stream because we've gone just over 2 hours, and I don't want to take too much more time of everyone. So I think we pretty much covered why gaming shouldn't have Web3. It'd be nice to perhaps if we could next time come up with actual reasons for, but I think it is important to have voices within the industry that are skeptical of these things. It creates some good back and forth, and
let's get some conclusions actually before we
sure
wrap up. Let's see what have we learned, because I think on that point, a point for me, what I feel like I've learned or articulated more, I don't think crypto will be the mainstream go-to, but maybe we'll address specific niches in a better way than mainstream gaming does. I think that's maybe a way forward for Web3 gaming. We should not really probably target the average gamer, but some specific niches and address them in a better way than current traditional gaming can. That's one of my conclusions for today.
I think that summarizes it perfectly. I think we all agree that targeting the mainstream is going to be very difficult, and making sure that
your example with with the cards, right? And Vetemor's example with targeting the auto battler ones, and just having specific target audiences that they are getting a better experience, and I think that makes way more sense. And that's maybe we're still in the early days. Something we did not talk about, maybe we're doing in a future one, but the promise of the metaverse stuff, we did not really cover it, but that's a big discussion. But maybe that's gonna be a thing that can bring more real world use case for crypto gaming. But again, that's a whole different discussion.
One thing that we didn't really talk about is what are exactly the things that prevent people from being actually onboarded. And I think one of the biggest things that is an issue to onboarding people into crypto gaming is the fact that you actually need to self-custody a wallet that has no insurance. People, to do so properly and safely, need to buy a ledger and learn how cold and hot wallets work. It's shockingly easy, and yet at the same time, I know too many people that they've been in the space for ages and they just still don't use a ledger, and then they lose $30,000 in overnight or 100,000 and dumb shit. And it's how are we expecting some guy to come into a game and learn all this shit? But one thing that is coming somewhat soon and that's being worked on is account abstraction, and I think that's going to be massive for actually onboarding people into crypto as a whole. But it's also going to be massive for crypto gaming becoming somewhat actually viable. IMX has something similar going on where they've got the IMX passport, and what that essentially is you don't need a seed phrase. It's actually done through an account. And you can log in with Facebook, log in with Google, that kind of thing. And they manage your seed phrase. You don't ever get your seed phrase. And it's all done without that aspect of managing a seed phrase. And I think that's actually something that's going to be big for onboarding a bunch of people.
Sure. And I know RDZ's written a few articles on the immutable passport, and we're all, I think that's a great way to onboard people and reduce the friction that I know, Vetemor, you're always talking about on Twitter. We need to make sure that, even your conversation today, adding that one step with the ticket, I totally agree that as soon as
a single step in a game can be an extra click is is friction.
Too much. Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with that. So definitely some good things coming up in the space, and for us, we're definitely keen to see what happens. Thank you very much for coming onto the stream, and unfortunately, there wasn't much argument or debating. It was more so a lot of agreeing. But hey, that's okay with us. Yeah, once again, guys, if you think Vetemor would be a good candidate for the Illuvium Strategy Council, I mean, clearly he has thought deeply about all things gaming and Web3 gaming. I do think he would be a great candidate for it. So, you know, even like the voting can be slightly difficult. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you need to access your wallet and whatnot. But I'm sure there's I know Scoriox did a pretty good video on how to vote. Perhaps I should link that somewhere. But yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for coming onto the stream, and we'll definitely see you in the Web3 gaming space in the future.
Yeah,
There you go,
I'd be happy
Vetemor.
to come on sometime. Again, this was really fun.
Yeah,
sure.
we should do a part 2 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was good.
There you go, Vetemor. You've got yourself a fanboy in Scuzz that will, you know, shill your Illuvium candidacy. So there you go. Add him to your list, mate. But yeah, no, that was good. And for me, I think even though we did find a lot of problems with crypto gaming, I think the aspect of it that I really like is that at this stage the crypto is not that important to the gaming industry, but it can be important. I think that's the key. And you know, that's why this is such a interesting space to be a part of, because there's a lot of work and a lot of stuff that is going to be released in the next few years. I have no doubt. So yeah, keen to discuss it more with you guys later.
Yeah, I guess we can